What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at Rob Zombie's reboot of The Munsters. Let's waste no time. Let's get right into it. So, to make a long story short, I've always been very lukewarm to Rob Zombie as a filmmaker. He understands the mechanics and the basics of filmmaking. He knows how to create tensions and atmospheres with his movies. But the thing that drags him down is that he's very one-dimensional. He sticks to a particular thing, and then he just overly uses it in everything he's ever done to the point where it's just comically bad. So when it was announced that he was going to be doing a reboot of The Munsters, I was very apprehensive. I'm a fan of the TV show. I like the movie. I like the two movies that had the original Munsters cast. So yeah, my apprehension was very warranted because I'm a fan of the Munsters. I'm a fan of the original Munsters. I like the characters. I like the show. And even though, despite Zombie being a self-admitted fan, knowing his work and what came before it, yeah, that can make anyone just have a lot of reservations. And even seeing the trailer didn't really win me over. But I can say, after finally seeing his reboot of The Munsters, I'm not going to lie, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think this is one of Rob Zombie's better movies in a very, very long time. Is this movie perfect? No, it's not. Does it have Rob Zombie's fingerprints all over it? Yeah. There are a lot of instances where, Rob Zombie, he does put in that patented zombie humor that he's known for, and it does go into conflict a little bit with the other humor that he's in this movie. But I give Zombie a lot of credit. He was restrained in this movie. He didn't turn the Munsters into unrecognizable people. He actually tried to make a legitimate, decent attempt at rebooting the Munsters, and also but at the same time retaining the spirit of what came of the original. I give the man a lot of credit. He put together a solid, overall, very, very solid reboot. Like I said, it's not perfect, but you can tell that this movie does have a heart. You can tell that he put a lot of heart and soul into it, and that he legitimately is a fan of the Munsters, and that he tried to capture the spirit of the TV show. So with all that being said, let's just briefly go over the positives and negatives. The positives, the cast in this movie is a lot of fun. I mean, you have these Rob Zombie regulars like Jeffrey Daniel Phillips, Sherry Moon Zombie, and Daniel Roebuck, who play Herman, Lily, and Grandpa respectively. The trio, the trio of the Munsters, and I thought they played the roles really, really well. I think Jeffrey Daniel Phillips, to me, is very miscast as Herman. Jeffrey Daniel Phillips, I liked him in other things in terms of Rob Zombie's movies. I even when watching this movie, I mean, he's not doing a bad job at all. He's giving it his all. He's trying. He just doesn't have that. Jeffrey Daniel Phillips doesn't have that presence, that on-screen presence or voice of a Herman Munster, and Phillips's voice when he's Herman, it just sounds so. It sounds very weak and very soft. But I give Phillips a lot of credit. He's clearly giving it his all, and you can tell that he's really having fun in the role of Herman, and it's infectious and it bounces off screen. And he does have a lot of legitimate funny moments as the character. I love the bantering between Phillips and Daniel Roebuck. It is a classic Grandpa Herman rivalry. It's like Grandpa doesn't hate Herman, but he's also not a big fan of Herman either. Speaking of which, Daniel Roebuck as Grandpa was awesome. If anyone can take the mantle of the Count from the legendary Al Lewis, it's going to be Daniel Roebuck. He played the role expertly. He had a lot of the funny lines. He had a lot of the funny bits. He had a lot of the standout moments. Daniel Roebuck has good chemistry with Jeffrey Daniel Phillips as Herman. Their bantering is hilarious. He had really good chemistry with Sherry Moon Zombie. Sherry Moon Zombie, as an actress, she's always been hit and miss. You're either going to like her or you're going to hate her. In this movie, Sherry Moon Zombie did a really good job at capturing the spirit of Yvonne DiCarlo. She got the cadence of Yvonne DiCarlo down. She had the mannerisms and personality down. Again, I mean, Sherry Moon Zombie, she's, again, as I said, she's an actress that you're either going to like or you're going to hate. And it all depends on your taste. I never hated Sherry Moon Zombie because she clearly tries. In this one, she tries, and she's not doing a half-bad job. So, despite some criticisms for the three principals, I enjoyed them in the roles. I thought they were fine. The supporting cast that surrounds them, They were a lot of fun as well. You have Richard Brake, who plays Dr. Wolfgang, who was the creator of Herman. I love Richard Brake. I think he's a grossly underrated character actor, and he's clearly hamming it up as Dr. Wolfgang. He's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, there is one scene where Grandpa's watching this TV show, and Richard Brake and Rob Zombie tries to force in his patented foul language, but he does it in a way where it's bleeped out. You know, that is kind of forced. That is, to me, that came across as forced. But Richard Brake was funny enough where I can let it slide. I got no complaint. I have no complaints with Richard Brake's performance in this movie. He was hilarious. And he also plays another role known as Orlok, which is an homage to Nosferatu's Count Orlok, who was the first suitor for Lily. And that whole bit with Orlok trying to date Lily is very funny. It got a lot of laughs out of me. Like, this movie surprisingly got a lot of laughs out of me. I was very shocked about that. You have the actor of Jorge, I think his name is Jorge Garcia. He plays a hunchback named as Phillips, who is the assistant to Dr. Wolfgang. He's funny too. Phillips is actually the one who gave Herman his name, and he only gave him, and he got the last name Munster because of Munster cheese. Yeah, I thought Phillips was pretty funny. And when Herman goes solo and breaks away from the doctor, Phillips becomes his agent in a way. So that has some funny bits to it. We also have my other favorite character who I like is played by Thomas Boykin. He plays Lester, Lily's werewolf brother. I thought Lester in this movie was hilarious. It's like the TV show. He's a guy who's constantly broke, trying to get money out of, trying to scheme people out of money. He tried to scheme his father. He tried to scheme his father. Tries to scheme Lily. Actually, he does scheme Lily a little bit, but it actually works to his advantage, and Lily actually buys in because that's how she's able to meet Herman. After seeing Herman on TV when he's first revealed to the world of Transylvania. So I like how Lester does that. And, you know, and Lester has his own little subplot where he owes this gypsy woman, Zoya, some money. And in order for him to pay her the money, he has to convince, you know, Grandpa and Lily to sell the castle. But he does that by kind of playing to Herman's sensitiveness and lugness. Yeah, I like the character of Lester. He's a lot of fun. He was funny. Thomas Boykin's clearly having a lot of fun playing Lester. And the rest of the supporting cast is also really solid as well and play the roles decently. But Richard Brake and Daniel Roebuck, those are my two big favorites, are Richard Brake and Roebuck as their characters. I thought they played them very, very well. And also, you have other characters besides Richard Brake who are playing more than one role, like Al Lewis. Daniel Roebuck plays more than one role, and so does Sherry Moon Zombie. She also plays more than one role. And that's typical for a Rob Zombie movie where his actors are playing like double or triple roles, but they're very distinct and they don't really overlap with each other. So I appreciate that. So, like, in terms of the cast, no complaints. I thought everyone played the roles very, very well, and there's a lot of funny bits that everyone has a chance to do to stand out. The overall story of this movie, it's basically an origin story, and it's how Herman met Lily. You know, it's cheesy. It shows that Rob Zombie writing love stories is not his strong suit whatsoever. But it's innocent enough where you can let it go. It's not the best aspect of this movie. but it does have some charmingness to it. And Phillips and Zombie as Herman and Lily, they do actually have some good on-screen chemistry with one another. And there are moments where they do capture the spirit of Fred Gwynne and Yvonne DiCarlo in some moments. So I appreciate that. I don't hate it. Again, the love story ain't the greatest part of this movie, but it's good. It's good. If it didn't work, then this movie would definitely fall apart and not work at all. So, yeah, that I can let the love story basically go. But the overall, how the Munsters, you know, came to be and how Herman got created, and the whole thing with Transylvania and them going to America, that stuff was funny. Speaking of which, the production values of this movie. So I read early reviews that where a lot of people have said, or a lot of critics have said, that this movie looks bad, that it looks fake, that it looks, you know, unrealistic. Have you ever seen an episode of the Munsters TV show? That wasn't exactly a show going for realism. So Give Rob Zombie a break. If anything, he's staying true to the show. I actually like the fact that you can tell this thing looks fake. It goes back to how those sitcoms of the 60s and used to look. Cheap looking. Those shows were always cheap looking. They didn't look like big productions. They looked cheap. So this movie looks cheap too. And Rob Zombie was just, to me, Rob Zombie was just, you know, he just happened to do it in a way where, yeah, but it looks cool. I like the sets. I like the overall look of Transylvania. I like how Transylvania kind of looks like Halloween Town from A Nightmare Before Christmas. It's very creative. And I like how everyone is dressed like they're from the 1700s, yet they talk in the modern way, and they have these cameras, and they have modern cameras in a way. You know, I thought that was hilarious. I enjoyed that in a way. I like the look of the original Transylvanian castle that the Count lives in. It has this very, you know, cheesy Gothic look to it. I like when they go to Mockingbird Heights for the first time. That shit's hilarious. Where they finally see 1313, and there's a big Halloween party going on outside, and they win a costume party because everyone thinks that they got great costumes when they're really not. When it's really their true selves. And then see that whole thing is all that stuff is funny. So yeah, I'm just rambling on. What I'm trying to get at is that I enjoyed Rob Zombie's reboot of the Munsters. I thought it was a very solid movie, and I ain't gonna lie, I would not mind Rob Zombie making a trilogy of Munsters movies. I think there's a lot you can go off of. I mean, yeah, this is an origin of the core three. In sequels, if Rob Zombie were to do so, we can probably get, you know, the introduction of Marilyn, get the introduction of Eddie, you know, maybe take some stuff from the TV show, some cool concepts from the TV show, and put it into film form. I think there's a lot of potential Rob Zombie can do with his version of the Munsters. Now, again, this was not perfect, but it's a good, you know, launching off point for something that could be pretty cool and pretty neat to see. So yeah, there's a lot of things to get into when it comes to the Munsters, but those are just my overall bare bones thoughts. Oh, side note, I love the recreation of the ending with the end in black and white where they recreate the original intro from the Munsters. That was cool. I love that. So yeah, with all being said, I'm gonna give the Munsters I'm gonna give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it is not. But it's innocent. It's endearing. You can watch it and not be offended by it. You can watch it and be very entertained by it. And to me, it does pay a nice tribute to what came before it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Rob Zombie's Munsters reboot. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe. I'll check you back next time for more.